And yes, I think we're live. Good morning, everybody. Yes, it's 11 a.m. Saturday morning. Woohoo! Story time. It is story time. And I've got a curious story for you today. Some of you might be appalled by this story, and you'll definitely be appalled when you see me laughing at the situation. But anyway, I'll explain all of that as we go along. But before I start with my story, first of all, I'd like to say hello to my spirit guide, Gregel, who is standing by my side. He also thinks the story's quite funny in parts. Good morning to Michelle. The puppy is actually in the corner, sound asleep and twitching away because he's dreaming. So Michelle, say good morning. We're with Michelle remotely.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, so Michelle, are you ready for our story time?
I'm always ready for story time. I think this is my favorite part of the whole week.
Oh, is it? All right.
I think it is.
Okay. Now, if Dean is there and watching, yes, this story is actually I do believe it's in The Eagle and the Rose. But I will be telling stories as we go through and continue with our story times. We hope we're going to continue with our story times. I will be telling stories that I haven't even yet written about. But this one, yes, you can find it in the book. And anyway, so let's begin. So we're going back several years, and I do not remember the name of the man who came to see me for a consultation, but here we were. Let's call him, think of a name, Michelle, anything you like.
Let's call him Dallas.
Oh gosh, no, we're in England at the moment.
Okay, so
Robert, let's call him Robert.
Either that or Gary. Gary is an English name.
Oh, Gary then. All right, we'll call him Gary. All right, so here is Gary, and he has come to me for a consultation, and we're sitting in my little room, a very cozy room actually, and he's sitting there waiting for me. Someone has let him into the house, and he's sitting there, and he's just waiting for me to come in. And my first impression of him when I walked into the room was that he must have some kind of a disease. I wondered, did he have Parkinson's, or was it something else? Because he was sitting in this armchair, shaking so hard, so badly, that it looked as if, he obviously could not control his shaking hands. So I'm thinking, okay, well, we'll go carefully, and never occurred to me that he might be shaking so violently because he had nerves. Because he was shaking so violently, I thought that he must have something else going on with him. Anyway, so I sit down in front of him, and the first thing I ask him, as I always ask with anybody who comes to me for a consultation, is there anybody in the spirit world that you would like to connect with? Now, even as I was asking this question, I knew exactly who he'd come to see, because I could see her standing next to him between our two chairs and just looking at me and waiting patiently for me to begin. And he said, yes, I'd like to connect with my wife. Okay, so now I'm going to tell the story. It's a sort of a mix of a story. So I'm going to tell the story as if I'm telling it to you, but try and remember that this is what this lovely lady, we call her Anne, this is what Anne actually told me had happened to her. Because one of the first things, very often, not always, but very often when someone comes through from the spirit world to talk to me, is they very often will describe how they passed. And that's obviously very relevant because, it's evidence for their loved ones who have come to have the consultation and to connect with them. It's evidence to them that this person can talk about what happened, can describe very often in the most minute detail what happened. And this is what Annie was doing for me right at this moment in time. And she was describing to me. So after I told Gary what I was going to try to do. And of course, I always tell people there are no guarantees, because there are not. I never know if something's going to work or not. But Annie could not wait to begin. And her husband, again, was just shaking so hard and so badly that I really did think he must have some sort of Parkinson's or something similar to that. But anyway, so she begins the story. And she tells how she and her husband had been married for years. They were married when they were young. She was probably in her late 40s or early 50s by this time, as was he. And they were childhood sweethearts. And they'd saved and saved and planned for this one trip to Europe. And going, you know, we were in England, so going from England to Europe was an easy thing to do, and there were lots of coach trips, or I think they are still now. So they had planned to go on a tour of particular countries in Europe. They went to Germany, they went to France, they went to different places, and they had planned it, and they were so excited because this was going to be the honeymoon that they had never had. Their kids were grown and gone, and they were now, you know, sort of in their, not quite twilight years. They were far too young for that, but they were at this time when they could now, you know, they could spend time with each other, and they could be just the two of them. So off they went on this coach trip, and they had some great experience, she told me. But as they were going through one of the countries, the bus that they were on, the coach that they were on, the tyre blew and careened off the road and ended up going down a cliff face, and people were thrown everywhere. Gary and Anne had been sitting next to each other, but somehow or another she'd been thrown onto the other side of the bus. And when Gary finally got to his feet, and the first thing he wanted to do obviously was to find her, when the bus stilled and people were crying, people were screaming, quite a few people had died, and he was looking for his Annie, and he found her on the opposite side of the bus with her head caved in at the back, and she had died instantly upon impact. So I'm telling him this story, and as I'm describing it to him in detail, going into some of the places that they'd been, some of the experiences that they'd had on this trip, he was listening attentively, but he was sobbing and sobbing so hard, and still he had this awful shaking. I reached out my hand to him because obviously this was a really horrible story, and he'd gone through such trauma and was still dealing with the grief. This had happened, I think, 2 years previously. All right, so he'd come home, but as with all these types of accidents, the bodies could not be shipped back immediately. So he and his son had to wait for his wife's body to be shipped back. Now again, remember that Annie is telling me all of this. Now Gary begins to shake a little bit less as I'm talking to him, and I'm describing the fact that they had to wait for her body. And she describes how both her husband and her son on the morning of her funeral were sitting in the living room waiting for the body to be delivered. At this point, it had not yet been delivered and was supposed to be delivered that morning to the house so that they in fact could go from there to bury her. She is describing the heartache and the pain, and the coffin finally arrived, and they put it into one of the sitting rooms, and Gary turned to his son and he said, would you like to see her before we put the lid on the coffin? Would you like to see her for the last time? And the boy was just a teenager, and he was sobbing, and Gary was sobbing, and they nodded, and he said to his dad, you know, will you come with me? I don't want to see her by myself. So they both went into where the coffin was. And Annie's describing all of this. And then, to my amazement, because this is an extremely sad story, it's a painful story, to my amazement, she started to laugh. And she said to me, go on, she said, tell him what I'm going to tell you. And she's smiling at me, and I'm thinking, this is not funny. Anyway, again, she's telling the story. Remember where this is coming from. The son and the father stood by the coffin, and they opened the coffin lid, and there, staring at them, was a total stranger. They'd been sent the wrong body. Now, we would be horrified, wouldn't we? And of course they were. And Gary was at once upset, but also angry, and started shouting, and the funeral people were outside waiting, and he ran out to them, and he's shouting, he's screaming, and his son was crying. But Annie, as she's telling the story to me, she's laughing, and she says, go on, she says, tell him. I stood by his side. You should have seen his face, she laughed. You should have seen his face. It was a picture. Tell him. So I'm thinking, I can't tell him that. The man is sitting on this chair, shaking like a leaf, sobbing like a baby. I can't, and I'm saying, Annie, no, I can't do that. I can't tell him that. She says, please, Rosemary, I'm asking you, would you please tell him that I'm laughing and I'm saying to him, you should have seen your face. It was a picture. Now, most people perhaps would not have said it, but what I think everyone needs to understand is that for somebody like me, yes, people come to see me. They want to talk to their mothers, their brothers, their children, whoever it is that they've lost. They want help. They want guidance. They want comfort. They want the knowledge that their loved ones in the spirit world are safe. So you might think that my role is first and foremost for my client, but actually no. My role is first and foremost to say whatever it is those in the spirit world want me to say, to convey whatever it is that they want me to say, because my responsibility first and foremost is to them. And certainly, although I don't like upsetting my clients and I don't like telling them awful things, and I rarely do tell people awful things, but this was an awful thing I was going to have to say. So again, I reached for Gary's hand, and I'm thinking, how am I going to say this diplomatically? Your wife is laughing because you had the wrong body delivered. And this man, tears are pouring down his face, he's shaking, quaking, literally quaking. I hold his hand and I'm thinking, I have to do this, I have no choice. And he's insisting. So I say to him, I say, Gary, would you understand, I hope this isn't insensitive, but would you understand if I tell you that your wife is standing here and she's laughing and she's saying, boy, oh boy, Gary, you should have seen your face. And the man looked up at me and he stared right at me. and he became still, completely still, no shaking, no quaking. His tears dried, and all of a sudden he looked me right in the eye and he barked a laugh, and he said, "Oh my God, that's my Annie. That's my Annie." And he started to laugh. He said, "I bet my face was a picture. It truly was, because it was such a shock." Evidence comes in small ways, doesn't it? It comes in little ways. I didn't want to tell him that. I didn't want to tell him your wife is laughing about the fact that you got the wrong body delivered. It seems to be such an insensitive and awful thing for somebody to say. But he went from a man grieving, quaking. He told me afterwards he was so nervous. He wasn't ill. He didn't have Parkinson's or anything similar. He just was terrified. He was terrified that she wouldn't come through, and he was terrified that she would come through. He didn't know what he wanted to work. He did believe it. He didn't believe it. So now she gave him the absolute evidence, and he told me she has the worst, the most awful sense of humour ever. He went on later to explain that they were able to get the right body eventually, but it took another week or two for it to happen. But here was the message from this lovely, lovely lady who, even having died in such awful circumstances, even having watched her family totally destroyed by all of this, still retained that incredible and beautiful sense of humour. And those of you who have a sense of humour will know that a sense of humour is what carries us through our pain, and it helps us with our hurts and our insecurities. It hurts, our sense of humour, it can be the thing that saves us. And here I was sitting with Gary, who was chuckling away still. And his wife's message to him was this: I wasn't in the coffin. I don't know who was, but even in the right coffin, I'm not in the coffin. That is just my body. That is just the physical body that I used while I was on this earth. I'm here, she said. I'm here. I'm right by your side, and that's where I'm going to stay. So it doesn't really matter who you bury, she said to him. It doesn't matter that you got the wrong body. She said, I was standing between the two of you, my husband and my beautiful son. I was standing between the two of you, trying to comfort you. And I was repeating, so hopefully you could hear me, but you didn't because you were so much in grief. But I was standing next to you as you lifted the lid and you saw that stranger. And I was repeating over and over to both of you, I'm not in the coffin, sillies. I'm standing right beside you. I'm here by your side, and this is where I will always be. Gary did come back to see me again, I'm pleased to say, a few times. You do understand now why I was saying in the beginning, it's a funny story. I know it's a horrible story, I get it, but Annie found it was funny because she really wasn't in any coffin, didn't matter. She had survived death, she had left her physical body, and she was with her husband and her son. She was residing in that wonderful place filled with light and love, that God force that surrounds what some of you might call heaven and other people might call you, whatever name you choose it to be. And she was the living proof to her husband and her son that we don't die, we survive. Okay, Michelle, and the end. That's the end, okay, of that story. Michelle, did you like that story?
I wasn't sure where you were going with that story. I was like, okay. But, the sense of humor part, I completely get.
Me too.
Because I have a sense of humor like that too. So,
You know, I was once in Canada, and I've been to Canada many times, but this one particular time that I was in Canada, and I was in a theatre, which there were, I don't know, probably a couple of thousand people in the theatre, and they'd come to see me, and I was giving messages and so on, and as I do, because I'm a British person. What do you want from me? I have a weird sense of humour, as all we Brits do. We have the best sense of humour ever, I think. The British people have the worst, the quirkiest, the most sarcastic, the funniest. Anyway, that's who we are. We laugh, and I think that probably because if you look at the history of our country and you see how many times we were invaded and how many wars we survived and how much pain and difficulty the British people experienced through the centuries, it's either laugh or die. So it's like, it's not laugh or cry, it's either laugh or die, because if you allowed all of that awfulness to get to you, through those years and through our history, we would be a miserable lot of people. So most of us choose to laugh, but we have a sense of humour which is, let's say, to be nice, we have a little bit of a quirky sense of humour, and all of those of you who are listening who are Brits will know exactly what it is I'm talking about. But anyway, so it's important for us that we laugh. And when I was doing this show in Canada, and we had a blast. I was there for 4 hours, and I have to tell you, I was exhausted by the end of it, because there were all of these people. I was running up and down, giving messages like nobody's business, but also as well as crying, because it's painful when we talk to people in the spirit world and they give messages. It's painful. It reminds us of our loss. We're the ones who are suffering. So, of course there are a lot of tears, but what I try to do as best I can is to alleviate the sadness and the tears with some humour. And so people were laughing and crying all at the same time, and all of us had a blast. However, a few days later, I received a letter from a lovely lady who was so angry with me and so upset with me. How could you laugh? She said to me. How could you laugh when there are so many people in pain? How could you laugh when there are so many people suffering? And I read the letter, and I felt so sad for this lady, because I thought to myself, how can you not laugh when you are so steeped in the pain and the misery and the hurt of others? How can you not find from the depths of your soul something light, something pure, something beautiful that will make people smile, to take their mind off of the pain and the hurt that they are so feeling? So some of you may find it gruesome that Annie laughed, and certainly I laughed because you couldn't help it, because Annie was laughing. So, but please understand that it's a way of, many people laugh in the face of adversity, because it's the only thing that they can hold on to. Whenever I hurt myself, or if I'm even during surgeries and hospital stuff, I laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'll kill myself. So I laugh to force myself to always see, if I can, the positive side, to find the positive side of the awful hurts and the terrible pains and the misery. So anyway, all right. So do we have anyone? Is there anybody there? Michelle, do we have any questions? Anybody, any comments about the story so far?
You didn't sing that part. Normally you sing, is there anybody out there? I was waiting for it.
Is there anybody there?
Yeah. Yes, we have several people on with us today.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Angela.
Morning,
says,
Angela.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Barbara says, good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning,
Donna
Barbara.
gave you a heart.
Oh, thank you, Donna.
Mary said, hello, lovely Rosemary and crew. Love, Mary.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure which name to use because it's definitely a Hispanic background, Latin background.
Okay, go for it.
But it says, good morning, Rosemary from Chile in South America.
Oh, I was in Chile. I like Chile. Isn't that where they have that cemetery? Yes, I think it is. With all the cats and things. Fascinating place. Yeah, sorry, Michelle, go ahead. Yes, good morning.
No, you're good. Maggie's on with us this morning. She says, good morning, Rosemary. I love the top. You look lovely in that color.
Oh, thank you. I do like this colour myself, I must admit. I thought, well, you know, look, tomorrow is the beginning of my birthday week. So here we are, sort of getting ready. Reese is going to, my grandson is going to do something for me special every day. We shall see what it is. Even if it's only to sing a song or to just blow kisses, that works for me because, of course, we can't go anywhere or do anything, so that's all right. So I'm having a birthday week, and on Thursday we have the end of the competition, which I shall tell you about in a little bit. I decided because I won't be getting presents this year, I'll give some away. Why not? Sorry, keep going, Michelle.
Rosanna's on. She says hi. Carmen says hello. Karen's on with us this morning. Yvonne says hello from Florida.
Good morning, everybody. Who says hello from Florida?
Yvonne.
Oh, good morning, Yvonne. Whereabouts in Florida are you? It's a fairly large state, Florida, isn't it? You know, it's like people say to me, oh, I've got a friend who lives in London. Do you know her? I know. But we do tend to do that, don't we, Yvonne? Let us know where in Florida you are, my darling. Keep going, Michelle.
We do like our Florida weather down here.
Oh, don't we just? It's gorgeous today. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yesterday it rained and rained and rained. It was still warm, but it rained most of the day. Reese was so excited because he likes to check the weather, and he couldn't believe that he called me specifically to say, Mosey, it's 88 degrees in New York and it's only 77 degrees in Florida. He loved the fact that his weather was warmer than my weather because it doesn't often happen, I can tell you. So, yeah, keep going.
Karen said, hi, Rosemary and Michelle.
Hi, darling.
Shelley says, hello from Vancouver Island. Have a great day.
Oh, Shelley, thank you.
Jane says, wonderful.
Jane or Jane? James?
Jane.
Jane, thank you. I hope you mean the story. I like the story. Okay, you got to keep...
We have Netta on, and she says hello, and that's the only part I got, except for that she's in Italy.
Hi, Netta. Now, you need to use Google Translate, and if you use Google Translate and send us what is translated, because we don't have the time to translate for you, so send us what you can translate, and then we can chat to you. But it's nice to say hello to you, Netta. All right.
Cheryl's on, and Cheryl has a question.
Oh, great. Thank goodness, because I was just about to quit. You've got, here's the rule with me. If you don't interact with me, I should stop interacting with all of you. So, come on. Cheryl, did you say?
Cheryl.
Good morning, Cheryl. Yes, what's the question?
She says, another beautiful and uplifting story.
Thank you.
Question, Rosemary.
Yes.
Do you see spirits in the clothes that they were buried in? Are they dressed?
Oh, that's a good question, Cheryl. Sometimes they are. I'm just thinking of a particular instance, and I don't know why I remember this lady, but she was lovely. She died eating peppermints. You maybe want to put that down on the list. I'll tell that story, okay? Yes,
the peppermint lady?
I know, she died. Yeah, I know this. But just came into my mind. She died eating peppermints. I know you're all thinking, are you kidding? Really? Anyway, I'll tell that story another time. There's so many stories we've got here. But let me see. She, when I saw her, sometimes when I said, you know, I never even think about what the people are wearing. I don't see them naked, that's for sure. They're usually wearing something or another. But this particular lady, she was very keen to describe her dress to me. It was navy blue. She was very short little thing, but she was sort of rounded, fairly large, lovely she was. And she wore this navy blue dress with these tiny, delicate little white flowers all over it. It was very pretty. And she really wanted me to, I had a whole family sitting in front of me, by the way, in my little study. And, you know, and so I described the dress, and one of the ladies who'd come said, oh, that's Gran's favourite dress. She wore that on Sunday. She wore it to church. She always wore that dress. That was her favourite dress. So sometimes, yes, we can recognise, you know, it's these little bits of evidence that people in the spirit world like to give, and I really like to hear, because I think it, you know, people ask me, can you see this person or that person, so on, and we do these shows, and we often get questions, right, Michelle, from people, can you see my mother, or can you, you know, so on and so forth. And it's so easy, it would be so easy for me to glibly reply, yes, of course, and she says this and this to you. And most people would believe me, but it wouldn't necessarily be true. I can't do the glib stuff. Sometimes it takes a while, and it's because what I am searching for from those in the spirit world, and they know before they even come to talk to me, because it's already planned on their end. They know that I'm going to be looking for something that I can tell the people who have come for the consultation, something that is, you know, different or unusual. Like, for instance, this lady died in a coach crash. I mean, not many people do that, do they? Of course it happens. The wrong body. I mean, that's pretty neat, right? Little pieces of evidence like this, but when I say that, what clinched it for Gary, what clinched it for this man, was not the detail, the coach crash, not the you know, the fact that her head was caved in, not the fact that it was the wrong body in the coffin. They were incredible details. Most people would be thrilled with that. That would work for them. But it's not that detail that works. What really, really works, is that little something that, you know, just, and you hear it and you just know. And in the case of the story I just told, it was Annie's very weird and very British sense of humour. Of course she would be laughing. She would think it was hilarious, and he knew immediately. His words to me, that's my Annie. That's my wife. So, you know, so it's those little bits of things. There's another story keeps flitting in and out of my head, and I wish I could remember it, but anyway, I can't. It's gone now. So if you don't write them down when you think about it, if you don't speak it out when you think about it, it disappears. Next question.
Francesca's on, and she says, hello.
Hi.
And then she asks if you can see her angel.
No. Because I'm actually, it's not that I wouldn't, but I'm not actually looking at this moment in time. But I do appreciate why you're asking. I don't mean to be blunt when I say no, but I've just spent that little while saying we can't do it here, because I could say yes, of course I see your angel, Francesca, of course I do, but no. So that's moving on, Michelle.
Maggie says, one time when my mom was trying to tell me about family illnesses, she was trying to do it so serious as a warning to me so that I would know what I might have. And I said, Mom, is this another, oh, by the way? And she laughed and said it was. I used to do that to my mom.
Oh, by the way. Okay, keep it going, Michelle.
Jane said, so the reason for the wrong body in the coffin or the lesson would have been what?
no lesson. I'm going to tell you another story. I'll tell you a little story. So I'm sitting, I was in Vermont at the time. I was sitting with a whole group of people. There might have been 50 people in the room or something like that anyway. And I'm telling them a story, and it's just a fun story. I'm just sitting there telling them this story, and at the end of the story, they're sort of, you know, they're looking around and they're all puzzled, and you can see they're all puzzled. So, and somebody said, "Well, what's the point of the story?" And so I said, "Well, what do you think the point of the story is?" Well, that started something. Everybody came up with some idea or some point or some idea of why I would tell the story, or what was the point of the story, or it must mean this, or, well, you know, that part in the story that when she said this and this, that must mean so and so and such and such. In the end, I had to stop them because it was becoming ridiculous, and I said, does it ever occur to any of you that sometimes a story is simply a story? There is no, you know, there's nothing behind it. It's just fun, and there is no hidden meaning. There's no, don't, please stop analyzing it. A story is just a story. And it reminds me that you know, I'm writing these children's stories for my grandson, really. And you might think that because you know me, or you see me, or you know what I do and so on, that these stories are going to be really inspirational and so on. And actually, they're not at all. They're just fun, imaginative, happy stories. The end. You know, there's no... So if you ever do get to read my children's books, please don't go looking for the hidden meanings, because there aren't any. It's simply just... I'm enjoying myself writing them, and I'm enjoying Reese listening to them, and I love it when he giggles, and I love it when he says, "Oh, Mosey, did the kittens, were they lonely?" I love it when he sort of gets into the story. Sometimes, darlings, a story is just a story. That story and that event that I told you about, it's not any hidden meaning for any of us. We can take from it what we like. What I take from it is this: we don't die. We're not in that coffin. We're not in any coffin. Our body, our physical self is in the coffin, but we're not. That's what Annie was trying to convey to her husband. The end. Okay, let's move on, Michelle. Are you there? I can't hear you.
I said I really like that story because for me it has our sense of humor.
Yes.
It does.
I think this is why why Michelle and I get on so well. She isn't British, but she's got such a weird sense of humor, and she gets my sense of humor. Thank goodness, because boy, you try working with somebody who doesn't have a sense of humor. Perhaps some of you are out there working with people who don't have a sense of humor. It's hard going. It's a tough grind. All right, let's go.
All right. Denise says that she loves it.
Denise.
Someone else she knows celebrates their birthday all week too.
Well, why wouldn't you?
I don't ever get to.
And next Saturday will be the last day of my birthday week. And I'm actually going to tell you a birthday story, and it's going to be about a circus. So there you have it. So I've already decided for next week, because it's my birthday, I'm going to tell you the circus story, which happened on my birthday. It's a little bit of a spooky story, but it's interesting and fun. Anyway, that's that. Sorry, Michelle, I keep interrupting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Barbara says, I'm in Florida, in Ormond, by the sea. I've read all your books back in the 90s. Love you, Rosemary. And that her birthday is May 25th, so happy birthday to you.
Oh, wow. Well then, happy birthday to you too. I don't know, where is Ormond Beach?
It's on the other coast.
Oh, well, it can't be that far away. You can always drive over and come see me. I mean, you know, Barbara, hey, I take in strangers all the time, actually. I've had the best dinner parties with strangers. So, okay, next.
Maggie said, Jane, my take on the lesson is that even when things go wrong, it could be worse, and to keep a good outlook even in the face of bad.
See, there you go. Good job, Maggie. Well done. And there I thought it was just a story. But, you know, stories that are inspirational. I think everybody who, you know, who listens to a story, no matter what it is, everyone who listens gets something, perhaps something different from it. So I would say, if you're asking the meaning behind a story or what's the lesson, we can tell you what we think our lessons are, but dig for it yourself. Why don't you figure out what the lesson is for you to learn?
Barbara also, she has a question. She says she gets the number 108 every day since 2009, but usually more than once a day. She goes, it stopped once for about a month several years ago, and she doesn't understand why she gets 108. I
don't understand it either, darling. Oh, I wish I was a numerologist. I wish I was a person who could interpret dreams. I wish I was, you know. I don't really wish, because I'd rather not be a jack of all trades. I don't pretend to know, you know, the meanings of things. If I don't know, I don't know. So I'm simply going to tell you, I'd love to be able to help you out, darling, but I really don't know. Next. And also, just while I think about that, sorry, Michelle.
You're okay.
Sorry. While I think about that, you know, when you go to see someone like myself, right? Or, you know, actually there's nobody quite as weird as me, but you know what I'm saying. When you go to see someone, a psychic or a medium or whatever it is they call themselves, you know, if they're real, they will never be afraid to say, I'm sorry, but I don't know. The ones who seem to know everything, and you ask a question and they'll glibly tell you the answer, or they'll pull an answer out of the air, usually they don't know and they're making it up as they go along. So, you know, when you hear somebody say, oh gosh, I don't really know the answer to that question, that means they are potentially real. Yeah. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Just talk over me now. Go for it.
You know I do not do that.
I know.
Cheryl does say that you have some beautiful pictures on the table behind you.
Yes, my daughter, my grandson. There might be one of me. Let me have a look. Oh, there is one of me. Yes. Yeah, I know. They're gorgeous pictures. They really are.
Elizabeth says hello from Scotland.
Oh, good morning, Elizabeth. Is it cloudy over there? Is it? My grandmother came from Stirling, so you'll know where that is, and it's so beautiful there. Not so much Stirling, the town itself, but the outlying areas are so beautiful, and the west coast of Scotland is probably one of my favourite places in the entire world, and I've been all over the world, so I can tell you, to make that statement is huge. But if you drive along the west coast of Scotland, it's stunningly beautiful there. So I hope that the weather's warming up a bit. The heather's coming out, right? May, June, it'll be glorious. Sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
Are you ready for me?
Yes. Sorry. I'm getting carried away this morning. Look, it's my birthday week starting tomorrow. Come on.
It's starting tomorrow, not today.
I know, but I'm getting excited. I don't know quite why I'm getting excited, because I'm all by myself.
You have surprises coming.
All by myself. What?
You have surprises coming.
I do? Well, woohoo! Tuesday is my actual day. Thursday we are going to have our competition. Why don't I just do that quickly, shall I, Michelle?
Well, we only have one more comment, so I was just going to give it to you, and then you can do whatever you want with the rest of the show. And let me
just mention this. As soon as the comments are done, so am I. So keep coming. What do we have, Michelle?
Carlos is on.
Good morning, darling.
And we saw Carlos earlier this week.
Yes, we did. He was our interpreter. Woohoo!
He was so good to us.
Yeah, he really was.
He said,
yes.
Hello, Rosemary.
Hi.
Greetings from Peru. He would like to know if you know why he wins and loses money easily and he's not consistent.
I think it's probably because you don't focus. Why would you win? Why would you be gambling anyway, young man? Stop it. But I think it's probably because, oh, I should tell that story. I was once in a casino. Let's tell the casino story, shall we, Michelle? Not today,
okay.
But Carlos, you just reminded me of that. Yes, you got to focus. Put your mind to it. Listen in at story time. It won't be next week, but it might be the week after. Next week I'm going to tell the circus story. If you listen carefully, I might be able to show you how you can win. Of course, you might have to borrow Grey Eagle, and I'm not sure how that's going to go down. No, it's not. No, not going to go down. Sorry. But stop gambling and focus. Yes.
Diana said that she speaks a little English and that she sends it to her heart.
Oh, thank you, darling. Before we go on, again, as soon as the comments are done, I'm done. So just, but I do want to mention the competition because we are winding it down. The last day for entries to our competition is May 19th, which is woohoo, my birthday. So that's the last day we're taking entries, and we shall announce the winner sometime in the next week or two. So here's the competition. First of all, you must subscribe to the YouTube channel, and it's simple. Just go into my YouTube channel, click on subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. You will not get loads of emails. You will not know any difference at all. Just subscribe, because we need lots of subscribers. It doesn't make any difference to you if you subscribe, but it does make a great deal of difference to us, because the more subscribers we have, the more things that we can do using YouTube. So, all right, so the competition. First part of the competition, what is the best advice that you ever gave to somebody? No, sorry. That's the second part. First part, what is the best advice that somebody gave to you? Did you take it? What happened? Blah, blah. Why was it given? Don't write a huge amount, but just sort of write, sort of simply what was going on. And the second part, what is the best advice you think you've ever given to somebody else? Why did you give it? Did they take it? What happened? Just give us a little bit of detail. So part one, what is the best advice that you were ever given? Part two, what is the best advice that you gave to someone else? Send your entries into rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. You need to subscribe in order to enter. rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. We're going to have a few winners. I'm going to give out, well, it's my birthday. I'm just going to grab what's on the shelf, and here they can have this, and there's a little pile here for somebody else and somebody else. So we're going to be just giving stuff away, aren't we, Michelle? We're just going to be letting it all out and giving stuff away. So you can send as many entries in as you would like. There's no limit, but the competition closes May 19th, which is next Tuesday. So get going. Email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Put in the subject line, competition, okay? And then Michelle knows to deal with it quickly and easily. I can see we've got a few comments or questions or whatever's going on here. I can see them popping up on the screen. Michelle, do you want to go back to that?
Are you ready for me to take over again?
Yes.
Okay. Cheryl would like to know if you have any stories about Grey Eagle.
Yes. Now, if it weren't my birthday, I would be telling the story of Arizona. But I have some amazing stories about Grey Eagle, and he's putting his hand on my shoulder. So the only reason we're telling the circus story next week is that it's my birthday. I might just change my mind, though. You just never know. I mean, you might think you're coming to hear a story about the circus, and I might end up telling you about Arizona instead. It's a whim. It depends on my whim of the moment. But I'm allowed, right? I'm allowed to do that. I'm the storyteller, so I pick the stories. Okay, so yes, so keep tuning in to Storytime, my darling, because in the very near future, I shall be talking to you about. I might even tell a story about the first time that I ever met Grey Eagle. But I might also tell a story about Arizona. You just never know, do you? I might tell a story of how going up into the Superstition Mountains with a friend of mine, I heard the drumming. Was it spooky? Was it real? What was it? I mean, you never know what's coming. All these crazy stories, fabulous stories. Yes, next, Michelle.
The next one is from Pam.
Morning,
and
Pam.
She said she saw you twice in Cornwall and went to your retreat in Vermont. So glad to see that you're still serving with your gift, and happy birthday week.
Oh, thank you, darling. Cornwall. I've been to Cornwall a few times. We used to go there, when I was first married, we used to go there. We had a disastrous holiday in Cornwall, I remember. But Cornwall is beautiful. It's lovely. All right, keep going. I'm glad you came to Vermont too. If you've got a story to tell us, or you had an experience, write it down. That goes to any of you listening. If you've had your own experience with me, write it down, and we'll put it into our story time list. Yes.
Maggie wants to know if she can borrow Grey Eagle for a little bit. She needs some extra watching over her. And then in parentheses, she says, tell Grey Eagle to stop rolling his eyes at me.
I'll tell you what we can do, Maggie. We'll put you on our healing list. We'll send you a little extra something. As I say to my grandson, he called me the other day, whenever he falls down or he hurts himself, or if he's feeling lonely, or if something's happened and what have you, he'll call me. And he called me a few nights ago, Mosey, I just threw up a few minutes ago. I did, you darling. And his mother's in the background saying, he's fine now, and I'm saying, because he knows I am going to give him the sympathy, and so that's what he comes for, and that's what grandmothers are for. And so, darling, do you feel better? Are you all right now? And can I have some magic? Can I have some healing? And the next day I said, you want me to send you some healing? And he says yes, and he closes his eyes, he puts his hands up, he says yes. I have to think of the colour blue, right? He's 7, so anyway, keep going.
All right. Randy is on, and she says, my husband just lost his job. Any advice on how to relax and stay positive?
I'm going to suggest you might want to listen to the
guided meditations.
The guided meditations. Is the second one out yet?
It's supposed to be, but the last time, even though it was past our release date, like it was going out, it took a while to show up on some of the platforms.
Okay, so you can get there are 2 out now. There should be 2 out now. If you find it, let us know. A journey towards healing is the first one, and a Garden of Souls is the one that is just coming out. So you might want to try that, and you don't have to even try my meditations, darling. Just there are lots and lots on the web that you can get. I really, here is a message for you. Wow, from Grey Eagle. I didn't expect this. And the message is not to worry, because apparently your husband is quite innovative when he wants to be, and he's down at the moment. I get that you're both down at the moment, but he'll be motivated. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. I know it's easy for me to say it. This is not something glib that I'm just saying to you. He's going to be fine, I promise. Okay. I've got a car pulling into the driveway. I don't know who it is, but keep going, Michelle.
All right. Margaret is on.
Yes.
And she said that it's her grandson's birthday on Tuesday as well, that Jack will be 10 years old. Happy birthday to you. I just got a big flash of comments, and it just took what I was reading away. Hold on. It says, Happy birthday to you too, darling. I had a stationery shop many years ago here in Italy with a lovely customer of mine that introduced me to you in the early 90s.
Oh,
I have
nice.
so many of your books in Italian.
Oh, thank you, my darling. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's so nice. That's so nice. And to everybody out there who is a Taurian, yay! Woohoo! We're the best. And second of all, happy birthday to every May baby out there. Of course, a happy birthday to all of you for whatever. But hey, come on, this is a special week. I'm allowed to say that, right, Michelle? To
Absolutely.
all May babies out there, yippee! It's the best time of year to be born. Keep going, Michelle.
We have Lou on.
Lou?
Lou.
Morning, Lou.
It says, being challenged today, wondering about going forward today when I get the call.
Not ready yet. You're not ready yet, Lou. Now, come on. Don't, you look. How many challenges, this is from Grey Eagle, he's put his hand on my shoulder. How many challenges in your life have you faced and beaten and overcome? And this is going to be one of those days. You will overcome. You really will overcome. And we're going to help you. Can you put Lou's name on our healing list? We're going to be sending you a little magic, as my grandson says. We're going to be sending you healing. You'll overcome. Yeah.
And Maggie says that A Garden of Souls is not on her Spotify yet.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes it takes a while after we release it.
You might find it on iTunes. We'll try iTunes. It might be
maybe
there.
Amazon Music too.
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah, go to Amazon. Don't you love Amazon? Don't we all love Amazon?
I love Amazon. It gets me in trouble.
I know. You got to be careful. Okay, next.
Jenny Lean says, "Good morning, gorgeous angel, watching from down under."
Oh, Jenny Lee.
It's Jenny Lean.
Oh, Jenny Lee. Good morning. Good morning. Or is it? No, it can't be, can it? Good evening, good afternoon. I don't know what time it is, but I'm so glad you joined us, my lovely.
And Lou said thank you to you and Grey Eagle.
You're very welcome, my darling.
And I believe at this moment in time, we are caught up.
Well, also I believe at this moment in time, the hour is up. So
it is.
We are done. All right. So if you would like to know more about what we do, if you would like a consultation with me, please feel free to email us, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. If you want to know more about the books, the meditations, I know that you can get the meditations on Amazon, the guided meditations on Amazon and so on, but if you would like a hard copy CD, please email us and we'll send you, we'll let you know how much they cost you first of all, and then we'll send one. Again, anything you want to know, remember the competition, the last day is Tuesday, the 19th of May. Yay! I always like something good to happen on the 19th of May. It's 24 years on Tuesday, the publication of The Eagle and the Rose. And it was published in 1996, and the publishing date, the official publishing date, was May 19th. We try to publish all of my books on that date because, well, why not? It's my birthday. But so that's right, yeah, 24 years ago. It is a classic. You can still get it in the stores. You can actually get it through us. It's all over the place. The Eagle and the Rose, it was my first book. It talks about myself, it talks about Grey Eagle, and lots and lots and lots of fantastic stories in there as well. Other people's stories are seen through me. So email us, I should say. Michelle is the one who deals with all the emails. And again, if you could possibly, if you want healing, if you want to know more about the books or the guided meditations, if you want to know more about our workshops, our classes, or whatever it is, whatever else you want to know about us, or when we're next going to be around, or when our next show is, email us, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com, and Michelle will just absolutely be there for all of you to answer your questions. Put the subject in the subject line so it makes it easier for her. So, all right, so next Wednesday, we shall be Wednesday afternoon at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be doing our Healing Hands Around the World and having questions. We will be doing our Everything is Attitude, hopefully, on Thursday morning. That'll be at 8 p.m. Thursday morning, our 11 a.m. show on YouTube, which we really love to do. Questions, answers, stories, story time, all that sort of thing. We like to do that. Everything. We do everything on that show.
That show, we do everything.
So that's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday mornings. And of course, I'll be back here next Saturday with another story time for you. Who knows what it will be? I think it might be the circus story. It's a very, listen, the circus story is so spooky and so fun and so good and sort of so different. We actually went, oh, and I can't tell you, can I? Because I'm starting the story already. Can't do that, can I? But it happened on my birthday a few years ago, just actually 3 or 4 years ago. So that's a more recent story. Anyway, so 24 years on Tuesday, we celebrate the first publication of The Eagle and the Rose. So that's exciting. And of course, my birthday is on that same day, May 19th. So this next week, we'll be doing all sorts of good things, fun things. On Thursday morning, on our 11 a.m. Thursday morning show, we're going to have a little party, aren't we, Michelle? We're going to have a little something going on, right? And we may have, I don't like cake. Do we have to? No, we don't have to have cake, do we? Because I don't like cake.
We can have like cheesecake or something where it's not cake.
I'll think something. I'll make something, and then we're going to sit here and eat in front of you all and make you all jealous. So there you have it. All right, so until I see you again, thank you, darlings, for joining in. I love doing this. I hope you love doing this too. Please, please, please have a very, very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a wonderful and a very blessed weekend, everybody. And please, even if it isn't your birthday, why don't you just have a birthday week anyway? Share mine with me. I'm happy to share it with anybody and everybody. And I will see you again, hopefully, on Wednesday afternoon. If not, join me for story time again next Saturday morning. Bye, everybody.